Welcome to the Frank Prince Show at Madhouse TV Studio. I'm your host, Frank Prince. A little shout out to last week's special guest host, Amber Ferrari. Thank you for so much for being on my show and co-hosting it. And also, comedian Mel Garlick. Awesome job. Today I have with me from Madhouse TV Studio, who does another TV show called Legends TV, host Evan Ginzburg and co-host Stephen Ludwig. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Frank. Boy, we had to go from that set to this set.
We like
you should have went to the beach. It would have been nicer, you know.
No, we like that 12-minute opening of yours. That was great.
No, that was 29 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, the show's over now.
That's right.
You know, I got to shorten that opening. You know, it's too long.
That's what she said. But
Takes.
sorry.
Yes. Ba-dum-bum.
So welcome.
Thank you.
When did you start your show on Madhouse TV?
About a year and change ago, a little over a year.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you. And in the course of the year, we've had on Martha Wash, we've had on Carol Douglas, Doctor's Orders, Nicole Bass from the Howard Stern Show, Lanny the Genius Poffo, and many other wrestlers and million-selling artists. And it's been a great run, great experience.
How did you get involved with that?
I've been doing radio for 23 years, and it was kind of a natural progression. And I've also been involved in film. I was associate producer on The Wrestler for Darren Aronofsky with Mickey Rourke.
Oh, okay. Now, what is radio? What show do you do on radio?
Legends Radio at legendsradio.net, which is a similar format, a sort of explosion of the arts. We'll have on the very same show famous comedians. We've had on Paul Mooney and Paul Reiser and every other Paul you could think of, and comedians, actors, million-selling singers, legendary wrestlers, etc.
Okay. And Stephen, how did you get involved with co-hosting the show?
Well, after listening to Evan's appalling show.
Yeah.
But seriously, folks. No, I was a guest on Evan's radio show. I had written a book about my open heart surgery called See You in CCU.
Talk about humor. Yeah.
See You in CCU, available at Amazon.com. No, and actually I have my scar here if you want to see it later, but that's for after the show.
Yeah.
But, so I was on Evan's radio show, and then I did a reading at Gizzy's, a great club that Evan used to book the acts for. One thing led to another, and Evan said, I'm doing a TV show. Do you want to co-host? So I looked behind me. I said, you talking to me, Evan? I said, I'll be happy to. I was honored to work with Evan. So that's how that came about.
Yeah, I might have seen you at Gizzy's.
Yeah, you know what?
I used to like that.
I'll bet,
you know. I used to go
without
down
realizing each other.
Where I met Edwin Vasquez.
Yeah, Edwin's sort of our semi-house band. Awesome artist. He did the Cape Man with Paul Simon and Mark Anthony. Serious artist.
Yeah, he is. He's a great artist. Luann Cerace.
From RAD, Recording Artist Development. Yeah.
You know.
The New York art scene, I mean, you do a show, I do a show, Steve does a radio show. It's an unlimited pool of talented people, and some get the recognition they deserve and some never do. But it's an unlimited pool of talent.
Well, with me, I want to change things up because it is a Madhouse studio, and I want to give back. So people on the show, I want to bring them on, show them off, and introduce them, and get them to watch your show.
I appreciate it.
Go to www.madhousetv.net and look at all the other shows. There's something for everybody.
36 different shows, 36 or so. Amazing, amazing. And Tom Melee and Vicky and Janine and Tommy Ma, they do a tremendous job, as well as the crew, the sound people, very professional.
And it's behind the scenes. It's like one happy family.
Pretty much.
This is why I do this, to get away from my dysfunctional family.
Yeah, I miss going down to the clubs where everybody kills each other. And, you know, it's brutal. You know,
and talks when the entertainers are on at their tables.
Yeah. So, getting back, you were a producer in the movie The Wrestler. Correct?
Associate producer. And I acted with Mickey in it. So the first movie I acted in, it was totally improv, and the guy's up for the Academy Awards. For Best Actor. It's amazing. I have a better chance of getting hit by lightning if you think about it.
Now, what was that like for you?
I was on the set one day, and we were shooting that very tragic autograph scene where there's like nobody there and the wrestlers are down and out. And Darren Aronofsky gets this smirk, and all of a sudden he calls me over, and I'm like, yeah. Next thing I know, he's miking me, and he goes, Evan, work the room. Go over to Mickey last, ask him for an autograph and a Polaroid. So Mickey whispers in my ear, he goes, just improv it. He thinks I'm an actor. He doesn't realize I've never acted. So I just improv'd it. So I walk up to him and I say, Mickey, I loved you. Not Mickey, the character's name was Randy. Randy, I loved you as a kid. I used to see you at the Garden, blah, blah, blah. And can I have your autograph? So he goes, what's your name? And we didn't have a script for that particular scene. So I'm thinking, and I go, Evan. So I'm playing myself in a fictional movie. He goes, how do you spell it? I go, E-V-A-N. And the next thing you know, Aronofsky runs over to me, starts pounding me on the chest, going, that was great, that was great. And Johnny Valiant was in the scene, and his hand was shaking. He said my hand was actually shaking during the scene. You have 125 people staring at you with giant cameras in your face, and I'm improvising with a legendary actor. And I think that performance that he did in The Wrestler is going to be iconic. I think 100 years from now, like Brando and On the Waterfront. He won the Golden Globe for Best Actor. Yeah. So I'm very proud of it, and it means a lot to me that I think the movie's going to live on.
Steve, what other things do you do besides the show?
Well, thanks to Evan, he hooked me up with his engineer, his radio engineer, and I have a radio show. It's called Steve Ludwig's Classic Pop Culture. It's at planetludwig.com. And I know you're worldwide, but I know you have a Long Island audience too, a very loyal Long Island. I have a little Long Island story for you. It has to do with my show quickly. One of the guests I had wanted to have on my show was Billy Paul, singer, Me and Mrs. Jones, great song, Me and Mrs. So I found out his contact information. I'm emailing him and told him just how I felt. I loved all of his music, blah, 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 and then I'm done. And I send it to Billy Paul, and I said to myself, did I call him Billy Joel instead of Billy Paul?
Yeah.
So I check out the sentence, sure enough, Dear Mr. Paul, at the bottom, thank you so much. I've loved your music, Mr. Joel, your whole life. Man. I said, oh no, yeah. I said, I'll never have Billy Paul on the show. So I quickly typed another email. I said, of course I meant Mr. Paul, blah, blah, blah. Well, his manager sent back an email and said, we get that all the time. He'd be glad to do your show. And he was one of the greatest interviews on my show. So talk about how, a guy as big as Billy Paul being that nice about it and understanding. It was great.
What is it like, a lot of work and involvement, putting in effort to do that?
In my other life, I'm a school teacher.
Okay.
So that takes up...
You always have something.
Yeah, it's tough, in that sense. I'm retiring in 2 weeks, actually, from teaching, so I'll have a little more time. But it is, as you know and as Evan knows, it's so time-consuming. People think you just start your show, right, and you do it, and that's it. It's like 30 minutes or an hour, and you're done. But there's so much that goes into
Promotion, preparation, booking.
Yeah.
It's a job.
What's that like, promoting and directing, producing?
I don't do anything I don't love and enjoy, and for the most part, it is a joy. And even if you never get rich from it, you're richer because of it. What I don't like are the egos and people that just aren't professional. Some people will be late, some people will no-show. It's the nature of the beast. And you're kind of like, well, what were they doing better than being on a worldwide TV program this morning? What made them no-show? You kind of scratch your head. And but for the most part, I would say 95 out of 100 times, you say this was just a pleasure and there's nothing else I'd rather be doing.
I remember Evan told me when I started, you'll see, Steve, that the bigger the name, the more professional and the better guest they are. And sure enough, they're always in communication with you. But some of the unknowns are like, are you going to get back to me? Are you going to be on my show?
Yeah, they're like, I don't want to travel out to Deer Park, Long Island, 10 in the morning for a sound check. Well, and that's your loss. I'm not begging you to, It's like somebody else will gladly do it.
And you check next, right?
Exactly. You don't have the patience for it after a while. People are where they are for a reason, for the most part.
You find it rougher now than it was?
No, actually I find it easier because after a while, I've been doing radio since 1991, and of course the wrestler, the reputation of it. So I think people know it's legitimate, and it's harder when they might perceive something to be a public access show or something and not have credibility. But then when they realize this is worldwide net TV that Frank Prince is doing, that this is seen in over 80 countries, that it really is a showcase, I think it makes it easier because people want to do it as opposed to, maybe I'll go down to the public access show and hang out. It takes on a whole different gravitas.
I love doing this.
Absolutely.
It's a joy. We work hard, so we got to do something,
Hey, making people laugh is an art. Not everybody can do it. I give you nothing but credit.
If I just fall on my ass so someone laughs, I did my job.
That's right.
I don't care.
That's how we'll end the show.
There you go.
That's right.
Hey, can we get the tricycle?
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
I'll ride in the suit with the tricycle.
By the way, you do look like Don Rickles, and I finally saw him live last year, and the guy was still tremendous.
Yeah, he's still
Yeah.
tremendous, sitting in the chair,
Yeah,
He's
I
great.
saw him in Atlantic City. There were thousands of people. Thousands. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to go take a commercial break. We'll be right back.
That's it. The bums rush. We're done.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
the hell?
Technical Worldwide Tattoo Supply is one of the largest suppliers in the world and your number one resource for top quality, affordable tattoo and piercing supplies. Technical Worldwide Tattoo Supply is the number one supplier of tattoo inks in the world with more than 200 products including Mom's Ink, Philadelphia Eddie's Traditional Inks, Paolini Sacred Color Inks, and more. Technical Worldwide Tattoo Supply, your one-stop shopping destination for great service, best prices, and top quality supplies. Coney Island Carlos vintage wines and premium spirits are undeniably distinctive, selected for their unique, memorable flavor. Coney Island Carlos vintage wines and premium spirits are delivered to you in beautifully designed bottles featuring limited edition artwork. Coney Island Carlos vintage wines and premium spirits are available at affordable prices in fine restaurants, bars, and liquor stores. Or check www.coneyislandcarlo.com for availability.
My name is Dr. Robert Brevard. I'm here for Multi-Medicine in Westbury, New York. We're located at 1065 Old Country Road, Suite 214. Been here for about 15 years. The practice has medical doctors, physical therapists, chiropractors, acupuncturists. We also do pain management, and we have orthopedists on staff. Here at Advanced Multi-Medicine Rehabilitation, we've got physical therapists on staff who treat an array of conditions, from neck pain to back pain, shoulder pain. We treat carpal tunnel. We treat a lot of car accident patients, slip and falls. We treat patients with knee injuries, with ankle injuries. We have state-of-the-art equipment. We've been here for over 15 years. Vast array of diagnostic testing, from x-rays to EMGs. What is an EMG? It's a diagnostic test that allows a doctor to determine where the pinched nerve is. Cora is a physical therapist at Advanced Multi-Medicine and Rehabilitation. She's working on Stephanie, who was involved recently in an automobile accident. Stephanie has tight thoracic and cervical musculature, and Cora is doing some myofascial release work and some therapeutic stretching doing it to help her with her pain. Vicky is also a patient here at Advanced Multi-Medicine and Rehabilitation. Vicky is now working her leg muscles, specifically her quadricep muscles, trying to strengthen them after an injury she sustained. If you find yourself in need of any type of physical therapy, please don't hesitate to call Advanced Multi-Medicine and Rehabilitation, located in Westbury, New York, in Suite 214. Phone number is 516-334-7000, or find us on our website at advancedmultimedicine.com.
We're on. We're live. We're back. Well, I have with me wrestler Chris Michaels.
Hi, Frank.
Hello, Chris.
Happy to be here, and I see we put a little distance between us because I guess for legal purposes, and I don't want to break something that you might
Oh,
need
yeah,
later.
I'm not going to insult you. You do whatever you want. You could hurt me.
Oh well, you're hurting me right now by
Oh,
God.
the light off my head. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Your glasses are fogging up. So it's good to see you again.
Well, it's been a long time. Last time I actually saw you was before you were getting ready to go on to do your show. It was after Evan Ginzburg was here. He was doing his tribute show to his best friend, Marlon, which are otherwise known as Tiger Khan. And I think that's where I met you and a bunch of the other folks in the other studio before you guys moved over to this beautiful, luxurious, spacious, new Madhouse TV studios. I'm telling you, you have no idea of how just amazing this new location is. So much better than the other one. I mean, I got to give credit where credit is due.
Oh, absolutely. Great job. They did an awesome job.
Oh, this is great. This is worthy of museum. I mean, look at the guitars hanging up on the other side of the studio, and the place is phenomenal.
So how long you been wrestling?
Been involved with wrestling since 1989. I guess you say about 25 plus years. And I started out when I was actually in the Army. I got my interest in wrestling. So I wasn't like a kid that had the bug to want to do this his whole life. When I was stationed at Fort Polk, Louisiana, down there they only had like maybe 3 or 4 television stations, 2 of which were NBC. And, their programming was very limited. On weekends, you would either get fishing with Orlando Wilson, or you would get high school sports, which, if your kid was on the team, you'd want to watch it. And then, of course, there was wrestling. Of course, I forgot about it. There was also TBS, which was down there because the Turner Broadcasting Network is tremendous in that area. And I got to watch the championship wrestling, watching the likes of Ric Flair and Magnum TA, Rock and Roll Express,
All those
and
guys.
a lot of the guys that the Southern Circuit really knew about. And that's where I gained my interest. And what was funny is a bunch of us Army guys, we're all into it and everything, and that's a bunch of guys, all this, a lot of testosterone building and stuff, and you get out there, we drink a little bit, and we decide, what we're gonna do. We're out there in the middle of this field. Now, mind you, it does get cold in Louisiana too during the winter months, but the ground was frozen, and we were probably on our case and a half of whatever crappy swill we were drinking at the time. And we said, we think we could do this wrestling stuff. So one of these guys said, okay, well, lock me up and give me one of those suplexes. So he goes, gets me up, bam! And I saw lights for a second, and I'm like, hey, it really wasn't that bad. Mm-hmm. So at that point, I'm like, I think I could take some of this abuse.
Right.
And then I started trying to put some weight on. And I think by the time I left the Army, I know I went in the Army at 135 pounds. By the time I got out, I was weighing at 180, and then by the time I finally got into the wrestling itself, I had put on some more weight, and I maintained 225 pounds for most of my time in wrestling. Now I'm at the same weight, except my chest has sunken. So right now I've got a sunken chest.
In your stomach.
Yeah, well, like
But
a
that's
buried
all right.
treasure.
Everything drops when you get older.
Well, it's gravity, right,
That's
exactly.
it.
Well, was it, I think that Joan Rivers said that she likes to go braless because when she does that, those things slap her in the knees and it pulls all the wrinkles out of her face? I guess that's before all the surgery, right?
I think so. So, who was some of the wrestlers that you wrestled with?
Well, I mentioned Ric Flair, which
Yeah.
I got the pleasure of working with him, which really wasn't much because now they call the guys that go in there enhancement talent, which used to be called jobbers or what we would, and I wear that as a badge of honor. And, any of the guys, the fans that want to go out there and use a jobber as a pejorative to me, I wear it with honor because most of those guys couldn't take the abuse that we go through. And, like most armchair athletes that are sitting there that just got done watching the Rangers go down in defeat, they sit there and, oh, well, we almost won. We? What are you talking about? You're you're on the other side of the television set. What do you mean we? I mean, I realize you support them by buying their jerseys and buying tickets and subscribing to the cable networks and everything else, but we, to me, is when you're participating and not living through them vicariously. So I'm a little different because I know, fan is short for fanatic, and without the fans,
Right.
regardless of what forum that you're in, you need the fans because those are the people that support you. So I have nothing but love for the wrestling fans. It's just that some of them are just they just read into it a little bit too deeply.
Yes, they do.
Well, when guys are analyzing professional wrestling, it's like, why doesn't the mafia get involved, and how come there's no gambling involved? Well, who's going to win WrestleMania? Who's going to win this? So that there's it's like watching a trapeze act at the circus, I guess, and you're trying to sit there watching the flying Walenders, and what do you think? You think he's going to do the triple double axel with a half twist? And you don't get people analyzing trapeze artists, but wrestling they do.
Who were some of your mentors?
I was trained by a guy by the name of Mark Tendler, who was, I guess, I wouldn't say he was enhancement talent, but he was like an undercard wrestler, I guess is the best way to put it, who was also married at one time to a lady wrestler by the name of Kitty Adams. And I was in his garage, not in a wrestling ring, but actually in his garage, learning how to do the moves, learning how to fall, and learning how to do everything involved with wrestling. And it was a bit different because back then Puerto Rico and Japan were the two hotbeds of wrestling, and there was territory, so you had places to go, not like the way things are now. Now everything's pretty dried up.
Yeah. How did you get booked?
Well, despite what a lot of people think, not like actors, comedians,
Right.
Whatnot. There's normally a talent agent that would go ahead and get you booked, and there are some guys out there that do help get wrestlers booked, and just try to help promote them and get their name out there. So there are some people that do that, but they usually only work at the level of someone who was on television, has some kind of a notoriety. Because trying to book an independent guy who was on the independent circuit, it's difficult to get a no-name guy work until he gets some type of recognition, and that's usually, the old expression is, you have to pay your dues. You have to get out there, and I would think, for instance, and sometimes you'd have an open mic night, you get out there, and there's only a few people out there, but you just do it because you love doing it. And there's an expression that I like to believe is that if you're not willing to do it for free, you're not willing to do it for pay. And people look at me like I'm going out of my mind. They say, well, tell me something. You work a job.
That's true.
How many times have you called out sick to your job when you weren't sick? So you're getting paid to do that, but yet you'll still call out sick. So there's no passion. There's no passion involved in, some people just punch a clock for 20 years and they're counting their time down like a guy doing a life sentence for murder. So, I always believe that you throw all your eggs in one basket, you try your best, and this way, at least if you don't succeed in it, at least you tried and there's no regrets to live with. To sit there and, well, I was taking piano lessons when I was a kid, I stopped doing it, but I always wanted to be a concert pianist. Now you're 67 years old. You have psoriatic arthritis, and you have all these other things. Now your fingers don't do what they used to do, and now you've got regret because I woulda, coulda, shoulda. But you try, and that's all that matters. Is you got to give it the best effort, and there's no shame in trying and not succeeding. And those that don't have that intestinal fortitude to have confidence in themselves and do that, those are usually the ones that are always trying to distract you from your focus. Why do you want to do this? There's that, and it's like, those negative people, you got to kind of, you got to push them out of your life. Yeah, well, you have no other choice because if you listen to all the naysayers, if the Wright brothers listen to the people say, "What are you crazy? You're going to fly that contraption?" We'd still be taking boats across the pond to get over to the other side.
Where were some of the places that you wrestled?
Mostly the northeast and a little bit of mid northeast, up Canada, Dominican Republic. I've been there. I haven't really traveled outside the country too much because when I was working for World Wrestling Federation, I was, once again, the enhancement talent, so to speak, and we would just go and do television tapings in Erie, Pennsylvania, Cornwall, Canada, Ontario, and just went around putting, what we actually would do is we were enhancing their guys that now are their major superstars, and even now some of these guys are retiring. So, I've been around a bit.
How much time and work does it go, into just say you're a new wrestler. What's the steps on that?
Well, first thing you got to do is find a reputable wrestling school, because right now there are so many wrestling schools out there and not enough promotions to accommodate the wrestlers. So you would have to go someplace, I would always say, like Johnny Rods has the Unpredictable School of Wrestling in Brooklyn, New York. And he at least has a track record of his guys making it to the business. There's a place out here in Deer Park, NYWC. They've had a couple guys that they've had that were successful that went out there and got some. So you got to go someplace that people have actually had a track record of putting guys into a place. Now, there's a lot of other wrestling schools that are out there that have guys that maybe never really quite made it, that are out there training guys, and some of them are quite talented, but as I said, there are more guys that are out there, and there's just like an oversaturation of independent wrestlers and not enough organizations to accommodate them.
Right. How much training goes into it?
Training, you got to join a gym, number one. Second of all, you got to get in the wrestling school. And third of all, you've got to invest in your trade. You've got to buy real wrestling boots, wrestling trunks, knee pads, all the other devices that you have to have. And you just need to, like a car mechanic, got to buy your tools. The guy's not going to change spark plugs with a pair of pliers.
Well, we're out of time. We're going to wrap it up. I want to thank you for being on the show. Thank
you.
Evan Ginzburg and Stephen Ludwig. And that's a wrap. And everybody, have an awesome 4th of July. I will see you next week, with another special guest. Take care. Thank you. Okay, Mealy, go chase an ambulance. Happy Father's Day.
Yeah, mother.
Your mother. Did you get that?